Shalom Aleichem, and welcome to Jerusalem Hebrew's weekly reading of the weekly Torah portion, where we read through the first 3 verses of every week's Torah reading using the ancient classical pronunciation of the Word of God, as preserved among the ancient Jewish community of the Jews of Yemen, as well as other Middle Eastern Jewish communities, such as the Iraqi Jewish community, where they preserved a nuanced distinction between all the different letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So, this week's Torah portion is Parashat TEITZEI. Parashat TEITZEI. You can find Parashat TEITZEI in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 10 through chapter 25, verse 19. These are the first 3 verses. Repeat after me. TEITZEI. TEITZEI. La milchama. La milchama. Feel free to follow along in the transliteration if you would prefer, or in the Hebrew. TEITZEI la milchama al oyevecha al oyevecha unthane Adonai Adonai Elohecha Elohecha beyadacha beyadacha Weshavitha Weshavitha Shivya Shivya. Let's read it again all the way through. TEITZEI la milchama al oyevecha unthane Adonai Elohecha beyadacha Weshavitha Shivya. If you're following along in the transliteration, notice we have indicated which syllables to accent. We've also indicated where ayin, a vowel, will be pronounced with ayin, and other nuances that you can find the explanations for on our website. This transliteration is unique in that it can be used for reading Hebrew through the transliteration using any of the traditional Jewish pronunciations of any of the major Jewish communities. So one final time, we're going to read it a little more at a natural pace. TEITZEI la milchama al oyevecha unthane Adonai Elohecha beyadacha Weshavitha Shivya. One more time, a little bit more fast. TEITZEI la milchama al oyevecha unthane Adonai Elohecha beyadacha Weshavitha Shivya. Pasuk haba. Next verse. Pasuk haba. Chapter 21, verse 11. We'ra'itha bashivya esheth yafath te'ar yafath te'ar wahashakta va. Make sure you pronounce this hey as a consonant hey, whereas the letter hey at the end of words is typically not pronounced as a consonant, but is simply a placeholder representing the existence of a vowel under the previous letter. That's what is typically the case with the letter hey at the end of a word. But when you see hey with a dot inside of it, that lets you know that this is not simply representative of the vowel under the previous letter, but rather, if there's a dot in the hey, it means that this hey is a consonantal hey. It is pronounced as an H sound, not followed by a vowel. So it's exactly like the H in English, but it's a little bit tricky for English speakers because in English, the letter H is always followed by a vowel. But in Hebrew, if you have a mapik, which is what we call a hey with a dot in it, you will pronounce the H sound with no vowel following it. So you do the V as and violin, that's the vet, plus the ah, so that's va, and you can see it down here in the transliteration. The vet and the qamas, va, and then after you have pronounced the qamas vowel, va, then you're just going to exhale. There should be no friction going on in your mouth, just a normal exhale. Va, 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 va. And this is important because even though this is a one-syllable word in Hebrew, it means two separate words. Va is the prefix, the prepositional prefix, which means in, at, through, by, and the is a suffix pronoun, which means her or it. And if it's it, it's feminine it, because there is no it in Hebrew. So anytime you would say it in English, in Hebrew, you're always going to say either he or she, him or her. So this is the direct object pronoun. So va means in her or with her or through her or by her or at her, depending on the context. وحاشقت va ولا قحط ولا قحط لخا لخا لإشاء لإشاء. One more time at a little bit more of a natural pace. ورئيث بشتيفيا إيشث يفث تآر وحاشقت va ولا قحط لخا لإشاء. One more time at a little bit more of a natural speed. ورئيث بشتيفيا إيشث يفث تآر وحاشقت va ولا قحط لخا لإشاء. Pasuk haba. Next verse. Pasuk haba. Wa have tha. Again, we have a mapir. Pronounce it as a consonant, just as explained in the previous verse. This is not a silent hey if you see a dot in it. It is a mapir, a consonant hey. Again. Wa have tha. Wa have tha. El tuch. El tuch. بثاخا بثاخا وغلحا وغلحا. This is gimel with no dot in it. So gimel with no dot, no dagesh, is pronounced similar to the R in French, similar to the modern Hebrew, the popularized modern Hebrew as spoken by younger generations. Popularized modern Hebrew resh, made with a uvula vibrating on the back of your tongue. It is a uvular trill. That is the technical term for it, and is indicated in the transliteration by the presence of a dot under the G. So not G as in good, but r, r, وغلها, وغلها. The lamed is a sounded schwa under the lamed. You know that the schwa is a sounded schwa because there's a dagesh in the lamed. Anytime you have a letter with a dagesh, a dot in the middle of it, over the schwa, that lets you know the schwa should be sounded, not a silent schwa. So not gilha, not ghilha, but ghillaha, ghillaha. It's geminated. وغلها وغلها أث رشاه أث رشاه وعاصفا وعاصفا أث صيبرناها أث صيبرناها. That this is a saldi and not a sin or a samich is indicated by the presence of a dot under the S in the transliteration. Eth sleeparnaha. Let's read it at a little bit more of a natural pace. Wahavetha, wahavetha, eltuch bethacha, وغلها أثرشا وعاصفا أثصيبرناها. One more time at a little bit more of a natural speed. وهذا التخ بثاخا وغلها أثرشا وعاصفا And that concludes the first 3 verses of this week's Torah portion. Some keywords from these 3 verses. La milhama means to the war or for the war. War is a noun here. And the la means to or for. It's a prefix preposition. Next keyword in these first 3 verses of the parasha is oyevacha. Oyev is an enemy. Oyevacha means the enemies of you, your enemies. Oyevacha. In Hebrew, you do not say your XYZ. You do not say your enemies or your house, but rather you would say the word your after the noun. So enemies of you, or the enemies your, as opposed to your enemies. Number 3, the root words originating from the Semitic root shin or sin, vet, and yud. So this root word relates to captivity or being a captive, and it appears 3 times in the first 2 verses of this week's Torah portion. Number 4, Yafath Te'ar. Yafath Te'ar. Yafath means Yafeh or Yafa of. Yafa of, which means beautiful of. Yafath, beauty or beautiful of. And then Te'ar means form or physical appearance. So Yafath Te'ar literally means beautiful of form, and it's a way of saying physically attractive. Waha Shakta. Waha Shakta. The wall means and. Hashak has to do with desire, and the ta lets you know it's a verb in the perfect tense, which is usually translated as past tense, such as and you desired, and you desired. But the wall here is a reversing wall, so it flips the tense. This is something done in biblical Hebrew, but not typically done in modern spoken Hebrew. It's one of the main differences between modern Hebrew and biblical Hebrew. Waha shakta means and you shall desire, because of the reversing vav. It means more than simple desire. It's a little stronger than that, so I translated it here as enamored. And the root has to do with, the Semitic root word has to do with clinging or attachment. So you're not just a simple desire, but it's a strong desire, such that it's difficult for you to get over it or let it go. And that concludes the reading of the first 3 verses of this week's Torah portion, Parashat TEITZEI. Join us again next week for the reading of next week's Torah portion. And if you would like to see more resources for learning the language of the prophets and the Word of God, subscribe to Authentic Torah at Patreon. You can find it at patreon.com/Authentic Torah. There you will find free resources as well as extra resources for paid subscription, even for just $10 a month, and you can get more resources than found in the free section. If you have any questions, please leave your questions and comments below, and I will respond as quickly as I can. God's blessings be upon you, and Shabbat Shalom.